it's Saturday afternoon, and it made me think of playdates. I understand that playdates aren't necessarily going on right now, but there are some skills to setting up your kids for success. And so that they can feel confident and build on that confidence, because as I reflect back on some of my older kids who have a lot of social anxiety because they feel awkward, they're missing some skills, and I honestly wonder if I had known what I know now when they were younger, if I could have helped scaffold or frame some of those first interactions with other kids so that they felt competent and confident, whether they would be a little bit more confident now in social situations. So if I could give them a few of those skills so that they didn't always feel out of place, and I could make them feel like they belong, whether things would have built on top of that and got the ball rolling, whether they would be more comfortable as teenagers now. So some of the things you can do for your neurodiverse child is set up some structure for them. And if they're really young, make the peer interactions and the play date short. It takes a lot of energy to make sure that they can show up and navigate all this. Give them a framework. Maybe your child's still at the parallel play stage. For this one, I had two clients that I used to get together with his mom. The two kids barely spoke. They barely interacted with each other when we first started hanging out, but we'd take them to the museum. I would take them over to the other guy's house, and they would play in the sandbox together or jump on the trampoline. The extent of their interactions usually was looking at each other and giggling. And that went on for over a year. But whenever I took one of them to the museum, he would be asking for his friend, "Where's P? Where's P?" And when I took the other one to the pool, he'd be like, "Where's my buddy?" Or to the lake, he'd be like, "Where's my buddy? I want my buddy." Even though they didn't really play together, they didn't interact other than they were in the same place. But that's where it begins. It's sharing an experience. So maybe it just might be setting up your kids, being like, "We're going to play with so-and-so, and we're going to go play in the sandbox." And you might have to give them some idea of what playing in the sandbox look like. We might build some castles. It might mean we're going to play cars and just let the kids drive the cars around the mat. They don't even have to talk to each other. They might crash together, and that's actually an interaction. These two same clients, I now bring them together, and it's been a year or two, and now they're actually at the point where their back and forth interaction is literally one screaming, "Ah!" and the other one giggling and laughing and say, "Turn the volume down." And that's how they play, cause and effect. And that's okay, because that's where it begins. They're now starting a back and forth conversation of their own. So setting up your child, being like, "We're just going to go for a bike ride," and talk about what that bike ride might look like. I like to set them up for success, knowing that we're going to go down the Goose, which means we need to stay on one side of the road. If there is a bike coming in the other direction, we need to stay our course. If there's someone walking, we need to go around them. So they have some expectation of what you're going to do looks like. And then maybe you're going over to play a game. We're going to go play Candyland. And maybe it's only a half-hour little visit. And they play Candyland. And you might even take the roles out of the competition. You might be like, "We're going to play together." So there's not a winner and a loser. You be the roller, and the other person will be the mover. Or maybe they both roll the dice and they move the same man. It's about learning to take turns. It's about making a successful interaction between the kids and not setting expectations of what it will look like. Like if they're going to parallel play, let that friendship grow authentically and develop naturally. Don't push them to play. You'll see which friends that they navigate to and which ones they relate to well and which ones they work well with. The other one is setting roles. Roles. "Hey Danielle, thanks for joining me." Setting them up with roles. Setting up and taking down games is just as important as playing the game itself. So, how about you set up the board and I will go get the dice? Or building a castle. You be the scooper and you be the flipper. Whatever that might work with. So they're doing it together. If your child is at that stage where you can have some reciprocal roles, where you do one thing and the other person, or some complementary roles. Yeah, you do one, they do another. and set it up between the two kids, because any of these rules that you use with your kids are just as good when you can get other two. Danielle, that's actually a great one. Having cousins or anybody who's a little bit older than the other child model some of those other parts of the stuff that they can't do. Here, you choose the color and I'm going to color in. And it seems more fun when it comes from a friend or a cousin or a peer than it does from me or from an adult. Sometimes they just learn by watching other kids. Just having them in the same room with other kids is amazing. Again, I will remind you that for a lot of neurodiverse children, it takes a lot of energy to interact with the other kids, navigate all the sounds, everything else going around. Keep your play dates short. If you have to take them home and finish your conversation with your friend later, that's okay too. Or some of my families be like, okay, you've done some playtime. Do you guys want some alone time? And each kid will go and watch a YouTube or play with like Lego over here, and one will do a puzzle. Whatever that might be. But so there's a couple of tips for you. The other last tip I will give you, especially for your older kids, is role play. Role play some of those situations with them. Oh, if you roll and we lose, we need to be nice about it. And we need to practice saying, good game. Oh, well, I'll do better I'll try again next time. Maybe discussing the difference between games of chance and games of skill. I just need to practice. Whatever that might look like. So there's your tips for Sunday play dates or Saturday play dates. I guess any day of the week play dates.